Hi guys, this is a review of the adding and subtracting with negatives section of the quiz you guys took yesterday. Hopefully you did pretty well on it. We saw some really positive things during our time in class. So hopefully you found a technique that works for you. I'm going to go over a couple ways and give you the answers to each of the problems so you know what you did right and did wrong. So we talked about in class, you could use the drawing the plus and negative signs as a way to solve the problems. These were small enough numbers that you could do that as well. So I'll show that for the first one. So we start with 3 negatives, so 1, 2, 3, and we're adding on 7 negatives. Remember, you can't cancel out negatives, but you can cancel out a positive and a negative together, and then they would get crossed off. But in this case, we just add on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more negatives. Since nothing gets canceled out, we just put them all together. There are 10 negative signs, so the answer is negative 10. You could also use the trick that we talked about in class. We said that you could remember that same signs, so if it's negative, negative, or positive, positive, then you just simply add the numbers and then you keep the sign. So like with this one, these are same signs, so I can just put 3 and 7 together, get 10. Since they're both negative and we're adding, it's still going to be negative. The other rule that we talked about is if they're different signs, then you're going to subtract instead, and then you keep the sign of the bigger number. So sign of bigger number. So I'll do a couple examples with the plus sign kind of technique, and then I'll also do ones like that too, just in case. So let's look at the next one. We've got 4 negatives plus 8 positives, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 8 positives. Those could go underneath, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Since we've got some positives and negatives, they cross out. We're left with 4 positives, so the answer is 4, which is the same thing as positive 4. And I know I'm going down like this when it technically goes like this, but that's okay. You can jump to the problem that you need. All right, and then this one down here, we did talk about that if you've got a subtraction problem, we're trying to get in the habit of changing it to addition. Now, if you can do this stuff in your head, that's fine, but we are talking about changing it to an addition problem. Remember, you don't change the first one, but subtraction is actually the same thing as adding a negative. Remember, you can't just change this to a plus sign. Okay, subtraction and addition are not the same thing. But subtracting is the same thing as adding a negative. 2 things that you have to change there to make this an equal problem. And if I use my plus sign, minus sign technique, I've got 2 negatives. I'm adding on 7 more negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. None of them are going to cancel out, so I just add the numbers together, and I get negative 9. Now, over here, I've got a subtraction problem again. Remember what I talked about here, we're going to change it to addition. We don't want to keep any of these subtraction ones. So instead of 4 minus negative 9, it's the same as 4 plus negative 9. Now I'm going to talk about how to solve this with the rule way. If you want to do the plus and minus sign, that's fine. But with the rules here, same signs, add them, different signs, subtract. Here we've got a positive 4 and a negative 9, which means we're going to subtract the numbers. So what's the difference between 4 and 9? Well, 9 minus 4 is 5. And we're going to keep the sign of the bigger numbers. So we have 4 positives, 9 negatives. Which one are there more of? Well, there's 9 negatives, so there's definitely more of that, so it's negative 5 for the answer. Okay, same thing over here. Are these same signs or different signs? Well, one's negative, one's positive, so they're different, which means we're going to subtract. Well, what's the difference between 5 and 1? Well, 5 minus 1 is 4. Keep the sign of the bigger number. Okay, well, is 5 negatives more than 1 positive? Yeah. So we're going to make this negative 4. Now down here again, we've got another subtraction problem. This one's kind of a tricky one, so be very, very cautious when you see stuff like this. This is not 1 times -3. Don't let those parentheses throw you off. They're just there so that you know that this is 1 minus -3, not just a big minus sign together. What happens when you have a double negative, though? If I have minus a minus, that's really the same thing as adding. You can think about if -3 is a debt, like if I owe somebody $3 and then subtraction means take away. So if somebody takes away a debt that I owe them, that's really like I'm gaining money. I don't have to pay something anymore. My bank account is losing the negative, so it's increasing. So it's really like 1 plus 3, which that one's an easy problem to put together. That would just be 4. Everything's positive there now. Okay. Hopefully that helps you guys with understanding those answers. If you're not sure on any of them, or you still don't understand, or you'd like to see the plus minus sign with any of the others, feel free to ask your teachers as well.